The blade of Zarakel. The warriors of Zarakel spoke of her in hushed tones. Not out of fear. No, for fear was too small an emotion to contain what she inspired. It was awe mingled with a fatalist's respect. Her name was Soraka, and her blade had tasted the blood of over 300 challengers. None had survived. She was not royalty, but in the blood-soaked arenas of Zarakel, she was treated as more than a queen. She was a legend, her face marked with the twin stripes of undefeated status. Tall, lithe, with armor forged in the fires of the Nidra's comet, she moved like flame and struck like thunder. She bore no mercy, only honor. And once she stepped into the ring, it was death that followed. So when the human challenged her, he was met not with jeers but with silence. Part 1. The Challenge. Cashin Holt had never fought in an arena before. Born in the slums of Earth's fringe colony, Deneb 4, Cashin had clawed his way into the interstellar vanguard through sheer grit and a knack for reading people. He wasn't the strongest nor the fastest, but he was a survivor. That was why he had been chosen for this mission, one designed not for victory but for diplomacy. And if not diplomacy, then spectacle. "You're not supposed to win," Captain Rel had said. "You're supposed to endure." He remembered laughing. "I'm a soldier, not a showman." "And she's not just a fighter," Rel had replied. "She's a symbol. If a human can survive her blade, even for a few minutes, it changes everything. Says we're not prey. It says we belong in the same league." Cashin had agreed. Reluctantly. So he trained, studied, watched hundreds of archived fights. And when the time came, he stood inside the shimmering force field of Zarakel's arena, face to face with death cloaked in grace. Soraka entered in silence. Her armor glinted under the artificial suns, and the crowd, thousands strong, rose in unison. She said nothing, just stared at him through her mask of polished obsidian. Then, with fluid precision, she drew her blade, the living metal known as Krathane, which shifted and danced with alien energy. Cashin bowed. She nodded once. The duel began. Part 2. The fight. He didn't attack first. He knew better. He let her test him, probing with lightning-fast slashes. She was measuring his rhythm, his stance, his resolve. Cashin dodged more than he blocked, and when he did block, it was with the reinforced duralloy gauntlets the Vanguard had allowed him to wear. No weapons. Just him and his wits. Minutes passed. Still he stood. Soraka tilted her head once, intrigued. Then she moved faster. She pivoted, spun, feinted, and delivered a downward strike that cracked the arena floor. Cashin barely rolled away in time, the heat of her blade singeing his shoulder. He gritted his teeth. His chest burned, his breath ragged, but he was alive. In the control tower, Rel's voice echoed in his calm. "You've already outlasted 5 of her last 10 challengers. Keep going." Cashin smirked, blood in his mouth. "Easy for you to say." Then Soraka spoke. For the first time. "You do not fight like the others." Her voice was melodic, low but clear. Cashin raised a brow. "You mean stupidly?" She didn't answer. Instead she lowered her blade. Not in surrender but in respect. And then she charged. He barely saw her move. He blocked, countered, ducked, and finally landed a glancing strike to her side. Not enough to wound, but enough to surprise. She stepped back, looked at the point of impact. "Interesting," she murmured. Cashin's arm ached. His vision blurred. But he stood tall. And for the first time in Soraka's career, a challenger reached the final phase of the fight, where death was no longer certain and the outcome was unknown. Part 3. The turning point. The crowd had gone silent again. not in disappointment but reverence. Cashin noticed something shift in her stance. Less aggression, more calculation. As if she were savoring the moment, not out of cruelty but curiosity. "You are different," she said, circling him. "Human," he replied. "We're a stubborn bunch." "No, it is not stubbornness I see. It is empathy." That threw him. "What does empathy have to do with fighting?" "Everything," she said. Then Soraka did something no one expected. She threw down her blade. A gasp rippled through the arena. The judges rose to their feet. This had never happened. Cashin blinked. "What are you doing?" "Fighting you would teach me nothing more," she said calmly. "But speaking to you might." The duel was over. She had declared a draw. The crowd didn't cheer. Not yet. They waited, confused. Cashin stepped forward, lowering his hands. "Why stop now?" She looked him dead in the eye. "Because I cannot kill a man who fights to understand me, not defeat me." The silence broke into thunderous applause. Part 4. The Flame Beneath Steel. After the match, Cashin was summoned to her quarters. This was unheard of. Even the highest nobles of Zarakel rarely spoke to Soraka outside formal events. Her chambers were quiet, lined with ancient relics, curved blades, and maps of forgotten wars. "You humbled me today," she said, pouring a silver drink into 2 crystal cups. "Not by strength, but by restraint." Cashin took the cup. "You could have ended me 10 times. "Perhaps," she admitted. "But I didn't want to." A silence settled between them. Comfortable. Not charged but curious. Over the next days she requested more meetings. Training together. Talking. Sharing tales of war and peace, of sorrow and laughter. Cashin saw past the warrior. Soraka was brilliant, thoughtful, burdened by the weight of her legacy. She saw past the soldier. Cashin was brave, empathetic, haunted by loss but still open to connection. They challenged each other, respected each other, and eventually something more bloomed. It began in glances, then shared smiles, then finally a touch of her hand on his. Part 5. The War That Wasn't. Weeks later, news broke. A faction within Zarakel's war council wanted to invade human territory. They saw Earth as weak. Soraka stood against them. In a council chamber lined with fire banners and holoscreens, she raised her voice. "A human survived me. Not through violence but through vision. He fought not to win but to learn. Is that weakness?" The chamber rumbled. Cashin stepped beside her. He bowed to no one. "I came as a pawn," he said. "But I leave as your equal. We don't want war. We want alliance. We want to understand." There was resistance. But there was also hesitation. Because the people had seen the duel. Had seen Soraka choose to spare a man. To speak with him. To learn. Eventually, the council relented. The war was averted. Epilogue, her blade, his heart. Soraka returned her blade to its sheath, not out of retirement, but evolution. She trained others now, not to kill but to balance strength with insight. Cashin stayed on Zarakel, named an ambassador, then something more. The bond between them deepened, transcending politics. When she walked, he walked beside her. When he spoke, she listened. The legend of Soraka was rewritten, not as the warrior no one survived, but as the warrior who found something worth more than victory. She found a human who could endure her blade, and in doing so, won her heart.